Pretty straightforward. So the court's lying?
I can't tell you, Congressman, but the interpretation was
lying. Somebody's lying, because you can't say the court ordered you to restart the payments, and then the court says we didn't order you to restart the payments. So either you're lying or the court's lying. And I'm just asking you, which one is it?
What happens when a sitting governor is confronted with court documents contradicting his own public statements? That's exactly what unfolded in a tense congressional hearing when Congressman Jim Jordan looked Minnesota Governor Tim Walz directly in the eye and asked a simple question: why didn't you tell the truth? Before we break this down, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel if you want clear, factual breakdowns of the biggest political confrontations happening in Washington, because what happened in this hearing wasn't just political theater. It raised serious questions about government accountability, taxpayer money, and one of the largest pandemic cure fraud scandals in the country.
Recognizes the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Mr. Jordan from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Governor, why didn't you tell the truth? Why didn't you just tell the truth about the Feeding Our Future program? This program, my understanding, received $3 million the first year. Within a couple years was getting $200 million of taxpayer money. Whistleblowers raised concerns. As the chairman said, auditors raised concerns. Everybody raised concerns. March 30th, 2021, the payments are stopped. And a little over a month later, the payments are restarted. Why didn't you tell the truth about why you restarted the payments?
Well, Chairman, we did tell you. And Feeding Our Future grew because of the pandemic. And
I didn't ask that question. I said, why didn't you tell the truth about why you restarted the payments? The payments stopped because there were concerns, obviously. You wouldn't stop the payments. Then they're restarted a month later. What was the reason for restarting the payments?
My understanding was the agency believed that the court had required them to make those payments.
And that was false, wasn't it? You repeated that. You said that, didn't you? You said that's why the reason. You said the reason you restarted is because the court ordered you to do so. Is that right?
I don't believe that is settled yet, to the best of my knowledge.
Well, I think it is, because the court did something that I don't know if I've ever seen it. They issued a statement saying you were wrong in what you were saying. This is from the court. It says, Feeding Our Future versus Minnesota Department of Education, correcting reports and statements by Governor Tim Walz concerning orders issued by the court. Here's what the judge says. Governor Tim Walz told the media that the Minnesota Department of Education attempted in payments to FOF because of possible fraud, but that Judge Guthman ordered payments to continue in April 2021. Next sentence. That is false.
The exchange centered on the Feeding Our Future program in Minnesota, a pandemic cure food assistance initiative that exploded in size during COVID. According to the hearing, the program started with about $3 million in funding, but within just a few years, it ballooned to nearly $200 million in taxpayer money. And that rapid expansion triggered alarm bells. Whistleblowers raised concerns. Auditors raised concerns. Investigators raised concerns. In March of 2021, payments connected to the program were stopped because of suspected fraud. But then something unexpected happened. Just over a month later, those payments were restarted. And that's where Jim Jordan stepped in during this hearing. Jordan asked Governor Walz directly why the payments were restarted despite the growing warnings about fraud. Walz responded that his understanding was the Minnesota Department of Education believed a court had ordered them to resume payments, but Jordan came prepared. He cited a statement from the Ramsey County District Court that directly addressed the governor's claim. According to the court's own statement, the judge clarified that the court never ordered the state to restart payments to the organization. The court even issued a rare public correction, saying statements suggesting the court ordered the payments were false. That's when the hearing intensified.
So you said something that wasn't true. He further states this, Judge Guthman, the court says this, Judge Guthman never ordered the Department of Education to resume payments to Feeding Our Future in April 2021 or at any other time. So I want to know, why didn't you tell the truth?
Congressman, the attorneys at the Department of Education interpreted that differently. Both of those judges are no longer on the bench, and I think that interpretation...
The very first sentence, the first 7 words. This is not some unnamed source talking to the New York Times. This is not some anonymous source talking to whatever your Minnesota Star Tribune or whatever your paper is. This is the court speaking. First sentence, first 7 words. Due to inaccurate statements by the governor, Ramsey County District Court judge has issued and authorized this following news release. That's pretty straightforward. So the court's lying?
I can't tell you, Congressman, but the interpretation was that-
Somebody's lying, because you can't say the court ordered you to restart the payments, and then the court says we didn't order you to restart the payments. So either you're lying or the court's lying. And I'm just asking you, which one is it?
I just simply know what the attorneys at the agency believed, that it was a misinterpretation.
Could
And
it
I would
be-
note that those
Could it
payments...
be you were trying to hide behind the court, Governor? Could that maybe be the reason why you issued the statements you did and why the court had to do something you never see done before? They issue a press statement saying you're wrong. The governor is wrong. His statement is, their words, not mine, false. Could that be the reason?
That was not the interpretation of the attorneys. And you know, court work, you can appeal those, Congressman, as you well know. I'm sure
Is it
there's...
all about politics, Governor?
No, it's about taking care of our people, which
Yeah,
Minnesota
these
does
programs
better
go
than
from
anyone
$3
else.
million. The behavioral intervention program went from $3 million to $400 million in 5 years. The housing stabilization went from $2.6 million to $104 million. The integrated community supports went from $4.6 million to $170 million in 3 years. And this is unbelievable what's happening, and you're trying to hide behind some pretend court order, some court order that didn't exist. Governor, who's Casey Magan?
I don't know who Casey Magan is.
Well, I'll tell you. Mr. Magan is a Somali American and a fraud investigator in the guy beside you's office, in the Attorney General's office. And here's what he said. There was a perception that forcefully tackling this issue might cause political backlash among the Somali community, which is a core voting bloc. Did that have anything to do with this whole fraud scheme that went on in your state, Governor?
It did not, Congressman.
Did not. So you're saying Mr. Casey Magan is lying too?
I'm not.
You're the only one telling the truth in the whole state. Mr. Magan, who's a fraud investigator at the Attorney General's office, says it's politics. The court said
I couldn't speak for Mr. Magan. You asked me a question.
I know. I'm
And
asking.
I said no when you asked me the question.
I'm saying Casey Magan said just the opposite.
I don't know.
So the court's wrong and Casey Magan's wrong. You're the only guy right. How many people have been indicted in your state right now? Do you know, Governor?
I don't have those numbers with me.
You don't? 98 people have been indicted. You happen to know how many are Somali American?
I don't. We don't investigate or prosecute people based on ethnicity, religion.
Neither do I. We shouldn't do that. But Mr. Magan is a Somali American who just said that the court, one of the concerns was this is a core voting bloc. And I just want to know if you know how many of the 98 people who have been indicted in your state are Somali.
I don't. Their ethnicity is not my concern.
85% of the people indicted were Somali American, key voting bloc. And I think that's what drove this whole thing. With that, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.
Jordan pressed Walz on the contradiction, arguing that either the governor's public explanation was incorrect or the court itself was wrong. Walz pushed back by saying the agency's attorneys interpreted the legal situation differently and that it may have been a misunderstanding rather than intentional misrepresentation. But the questioning didn't stop there. Jordan then shifted the discussion to the broader scale of the scandal. He pointed out that the investigation into Feeding Our Future has resulted in nearly 100 indictments connected to the alleged fraud scheme. Federal prosecutors have described it as one of the largest pandemic fraud cases in the country. Jordan also referenced comments from a fraud investigator who suggested there may have been concerns inside government about the political implications of aggressively pursuing the investigation. Walz rejected that idea outright, saying decisions about investigations should never be influenced by political considerations. Throughout the exchange, Walz maintained that his administration was focused on serving Minnesotans during a crisis, and that pandemic programs expanded rapidly across the country during that time. But Jordan's central argument remained clear. When taxpayer money grows from a few $1 million to hundreds of millions, and warnings are raised along the way, transparency and accountability matter. Now here's why this moment matters. Americans expect their government to protect taxpayer dollars, especially during emergencies when programs grow quickly and oversight can fall behind. When questions arise about fraud or mismanagement, the public deserves clear answers. That's the role of congressional oversight. Not partisan attacks, but accountability. And in this case, Jim Jordan came into that hearing with documents, court statements, and a very direct line of questioning. Whether you agree with his approach or not, not, the broader issue remains the same. How do we prevent massive government programs from becoming targets for fraud? And how do leaders respond when those questions start to surface? Because ultimately, every dollar involved in scandals like this comes from American taxpayers. This story is still developing as investigations and court proceedings continue, and we'll be watching closely as more details come out. If you appreciate clear breakdowns of major political hearings like this one, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also watch the next video on your screen where we break down another heated confrontation from Capitol Hill that the mainstream headlines barely covered. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next report.